What up, everybody? This is going to be a little unusual. I'm going to have two different little outfits here because this is going to be an intro to my intro on my HomePod Generation 2 video. And the reason I'm doing this little supplement is because I actually filmed my HomePod Generation 2 video 2 weeks ago on the weekend. I was going to edit it 2 weeks ago today on Monday, and unfortunately, my tumor in my colon had other plans and caused a perforation in my colon, which caused me to go to the emergency room, which caused a 10-day hospital stay because I ended up having emergency surgery on my colon to remove the tumor and some other things. But it's a blessing in disguise. It actually helped me. We got good news on the cancer front, but it took a 10-day hospital stay to get us there. So I felt I needed to come in and tell you this because technology moves so fast. So the HomePod 2 Generation 2 has been out for 3 weeks now, and I gave myself 10 days to test it. And now, so we're 3 weeks out, and I just feel like technology moves so fast that I need to explain that this is a little delayed. But so many of you asked for this video, so many of you subscribers were looking forward to it. I want to still release it, plus we worked hard at filming it, Teresa and I just want it out in the world. So forgive the two intros, but I just wanted to explain myself. So please, enjoy my video on HomePod Generation 2. I'm still damn excited about it and can't wait to share it with you. March of 2021, that's when Apple discontinued the original HomePod, and this guy right here was devastated. I was a huge fan. Slowly but surely they came out with the HomePod Mini, and yes, I bought into that, and yes, I've done videos on those. How many is too many? Man, I've had 12, I think I tried 14 at one point. Go back and check out those videos. But the HomePod Mini, was it ever enough for me? No. And so I went from Sonos to Apple, from Sonos to Apple, oh, HomePod Mini to Sonos this, Sonos that, and it was just a constant struggle. But now, the day has come. The new HomePod, woo! Generation 2. Did it live up to my expectations, my hopes and dreams? That's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm pretty damn excited about it. So let's get started. What up, everybody? It's George Langabeer. Here on the channel, we talk smart home tech. We talk home security. Unfortunately, recently we've had to talk about cancer, but that's not what today is about. Today is about smart home tech and my favorite topic, Apple Home. We're talking about the new HomePod, second generation, and I'm pretty excited about it. So, 2022 was a battle for me for many reasons, but in the smart home world, it was a battle for me for music. I'm a huge music guy, and I'm also a big home theater guy, and I was switching back and forth from Sonos to HomePod Minis, from Sonos to HomePod Minis. There was a point where I went on eBay and spent the crazy prices on the original HomePod and put it on my TV, but I'm just not a guy that can handle old technology, so I turned right around and returned them. But man, I did some Instagram posts. Go back and check us out. Follow us on Instagram. You can see my insanity in action. There were probably 3 different times last year where I sold thousands of dollars worth of Sonos on Facebook Marketplace. And then I tried HomePod Minis, and they would fall short because they didn't have Dolby Atmos, so they didn't have this. And I'd go back to Sonos. But then I'm such an Apple guy, I wanted to go back to Apple. And it was just crazy. And Teresa can attest to my insanity.
I don't think it was 3 times. I think it was 3 times, 3 times. Like, I think it was a lot of times.
And it was. And people on Facebook Marketplace scored because they basically got brand new Sonos several different times, and good for them. In fact, I've got some regular customers now on Facebook Marketplace thanks to that. But today, my prayers were finally answered. A new second generation HomePod, which if you follow my Instagram posts and you follow me on this channel, you know that that's what I've been waiting for. I was hoping for spatial audio. I was hoping for Dolby Atmos. Well, guess what? Those 2 things happened, and it's here. Now, so many people did the unboxing and their initial thoughts when it came out, a week ago. It's been 10 days or so. I wanted to give myself 10 days. Not only am I giving myself 10 days with the HomePod, but I'm giving myself 10 days with 8 of them. So this is going to be a little bit different. It's not only going to be about one HomePod, it's going to be about how did I do with 8 of them. I've actually got 10 total. I've got 2 minis still in the mix. We're going to do an unboxing. We're going to talk about the setup, the trials and tribulations I had setting up 8. We're going to talk about actually using the HomePod. We're going to talk about my thoughts. That's what this video is all about. Let's get to it. All right, before we get to the unboxing, let's talk about what the HomePod is. Let's talk about some specs. The HomePod, basically we can use it for music, We can use it to control your smart home. It's a Apple Home Smart Hub. It is a Thread border router, which is part of the smart home. And then you can also use it for Siri requests, whether it's the weather or calendars or reminders or whatever it may be. That's what the HomePod's all about. Control your smart home, play some killer tunes, and talk to Siri. All right, moving on to some specs. Again, this is generation 2 of the full-size HomePod. Can't call it the OG anymore. The OG is the OG. This is the new guy. All right, so $299 is the price. Back in the day when the first one came out, it was $349. Then it went down to $299. They're starting with $299. Now that's a little expensive. We're going to talk about in a few whether it's worth it or not. All right, it comes in midnight, which replaces space gray. So it's basically the black or the gray version, and then there's the white, which is very similar to the white from before. Power cord is detached this time, which we'll show in the unboxing, which is awesome because I put it in some creative different mounts, and you could remove the power cord from the original, but it was difficult, and a lot of people didn't even know you could do it, and you felt like you were breaking it. So this is very easily detached, which gives you flexibility as far as setting it up or mounting it or whatever you want to do, so that's cool. The design is very similar, a little different on the top. When you do a Siri request or whatever, you get the whole screen kind of fills up, or the touch surface or whatever you want to call it, whereas the first one just had a little feedback in the middle. This is a little bit more recessed, but otherwise very similar. This one's just a little bit smaller. We'll talk about the size difference in the unboxing. All right, fits on several of the old mounts. I referenced some mounts, so that's important to know. You can use a lot of your old accessories with this. The only difference is this one is flat on the bottom, whereas the OG had a kind of a hollowed pit in the middle. And so some of those mounts were made to go in that hollow pit. So you just want to be careful. If you have any sort of mount that's just flat, you'll see some here that I'll picture throughout this video. So it's awesome that you can use a lot of the original accessories. All right, it's got the S7 chip and the U1 ultra wideband chip, which you can use for handoff, which you can walk up to with your phone and vice versa. And you can pass off music and podcasts and even phone calls. So that U1 ultra wideband chip helps with that. Support for Thread and Matter. This goes back to the smart home aspect of the HomePod. It can be a Thread border router, and it's ready for Matter, which is the smart home wonderfulness that's going to bring everybody together in a happy family. Google, Samsung, Alexa, Apple, amen to Matter. A little rough start to Matter, but anyway, that's a whole different topic. But hey, at least we're ready for it when it improves, which will be very soon. All right, supports eARC, which means if you hook it up to your TV, because not only can you use it just for regular music, but you can also use it for surround sound. And again, my battle with HomePod Mini versus Sonos, a lot of it had to do with me wanting to use the Dolby Atmos for movies or spatial audio, which this has. So that's great. But also, if you hook it up to your TV and you got a PS5 or an Xbox hooked up to your TV, you can now play all those different sources through your HomePod, which is awesome. Find My. So anybody you've got in your family that you can share your location or any items you have on Find My, AirTags, things like that, you can now ask Siri where those items are or where those people are. Intercom, just like the HomePod Mini, you can broadcast throughout your entire home. It actually works on CarPlay as well, which is awesome. So you can say dinner's ready or whatever. So this is ready for the intercom. New, this is also new to the HomePod Mini through the latest update, temperature and humidity sensor. So whatever room it's in, you can ask what the temperature is in that room, the humidity in that room, which is pretty awesome. So that's built into this. And then a feature coming soon, it will detect if you've got a smoke alarm or a CO alarm in your house and it goes off, this will detect that sound and it'll alert you on your phone and your watch, which is awesome. As a security guy, that's a big deal for safety. And I really love that feature. It's not on there yet, but it's coming. All right, let's move on to audio. Single 4-inch high excursion woofer, 5 tweeters, which is 2 less than the OG, 4 far-field microphones for Siri requests. So when you're talking to Siri, it's got 2 less microphones than the OG. We're going to talk about both the audio part and the microphone part. Did that really make a difference? So you've got services, Apple Music, you've got Pandora, you've got podcasts, you've got iHeartRadio, you've got a few others that you can set as your default. So when you ask Siri to play music, you can do it through those different services. Unfortunately, Spotify is not a default at this time, but you can use AirPlay from your phone or iPad to play Spotify on your HomePod using AirPlay. And eventually, I think Spotify will join the club. But anyway, you've got several different options. I'm an Apple Music guy, but you've got options. So that's awesome. All right, let's move on to the unboxing. All right, so let's unbox. Got the tabs on the bottom. Remove those. turn it back over, lift your box, covering the top. Comes without that power cord. And I'm telling you, I use a lot of different mounts and everything, but for me, this was a big deal. Again, you could remove the power cord from the OG, but it just didn't feel right. And it made it very difficult, but this is very easy. So there's your HomePod, power cord, and your documentation. But yeah, so this has got a little tab on it, and you just line it up, plugged in nice and easy.
Can you show that bottom again, George?
And this is a big deal. So the previous OG had a hollow pit here. And again, that's a little different for some of the mounts you might find on Amazon or whatever. So just keep in mind that if you want to mount this or anything, this is flat now. So that's one of the big differences. This is the difference. So this is 6.6 inches tall, 5.6 inches wide, and 5.16 pounds. Just a little bit smaller than the OG, or hardly noticeable. And then this is a little different. This is recessed. You got your plus and minus, but just a little bit smaller, but hardly noticeable. So that's it. That's the unboxing. All right, now that we've unboxed, let's talk about the setup. And as far as the setup goes, we're going to talk about how it should go, how it went for me, and how it'll go for you now with the latest update from Apple. All right, as far as how it should go, very straightforward like the HomePod Mini. You plug it in, it pops up under Apple Home. You go to setup, you scan it with your phone, you determine what room it's going to be in, you decide if you're going to do a stereo pair. By the way, if you're doing a stereo pair, it has to be this HomePod second generation. You can't mix and match. So you can't stereo pair this with a Mini or the OG. They've got to match. Which, you know, whatever. For me, my mind wouldn't be able to accept them not matching anyway, so it's fine for me, but some of you out there might be disappointed by that. But anyway, you determine if it's a stereo pair or a solo. It goes through the configuring phase, then it goes through any latest software update, and then you're good to go, and you can use it. All right, that's how it should go. Let's talk about how it went for me. Now again, I'm gonna do this with a little different spin because I set up 8 of these, whereas some of you might be setting up 1 or 2, but again, I'm a guy that pushes it to the limits, so I'm gonna keep pushing it to the limits, and I did in this case. So it went a little different for me. Now I did 8 of these new HomePods, and then I still had 2 minis in the mix. So with that, I was fine, and these come out of the box in iOS 16.0, all right? So at the time of the release last Friday, we were at 16.3, and since then 16.3.1 came out. All right, so I was dealing with 16.0 out of the box, trying to get it to 16.3, and I was trying to do it with 8 of them. The first 3 went fine, which was a single in my bathroom upstairs, and then 2 stereo pairs on my TV. Went completely straightforward. From there, it was a nightmare. They just kept getting stuck on the configuring phase, and it would just be configuring for hours and hours and hours. And on average, configuring should be 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, maybe an hour, but it should never be hours. And I was just getting stuck on that configuring. It would never get me to where I could update to 16.3 on anything after my first 3. So I contacted Apple. I looked on Reddit. I was just looking for solutions. And so I got a couple of different suggestions. Number 1 was to go through my entire home and unplug every Apple Home Hub I had, which were my Apple TVs and my HomePods. And again, I was slowly but surely replacing 10 HomePod minis. So I still had all those plugged in until I started replacing them. So I went and tried to do that, and it did start to work. So everything unplugged, then starting to set these up one by one, and slowly but surely I was able to get past configuring and move on to updating these to 16.3. Now, I was very frustrated with that, and I did not want to go through that for every HomePod. So luckily, right away, pretty much, Apple came out with 16.3.1. And I will say that that fixed the problem. So from that point on, everything was normal, everything was good. So the setup was interesting, just trying to do 8 and also updating the 2 minis that I had to 16.3.1. But once that update came out, it got a lot easier. And so this week, it's only been 10 days or whatever, but a lot happened in that week as far as those updates go. So depending on where you're at in your process, make sure that all your, another thing is I found that 2 of my Apple TVs I did an update. I've got a couple that I don't use that often, one that's for our rooftop and it's too cold to use that one. And I found out that they were not updated. So make sure that all your hubs, Apple TVs and HomePods, are up to date, that the ones that you currently have before you add this HomePod to the mix, make sure they are all on the latest update. And that will also solve some of the problems I had, because those two Apple TVs also had a lot to do with my problems. Once I got everything to 16.3.1, it was great. So anyway, that was the setup. A little interesting for me because of how many I had. So let me know in the comments of this video how yours went, if you had the same problem. But the 16.3.1 is very important. So if you haven't updated that, update it for this guy. All right, that was the setup. Let's talk about how you use this thing. All right, so on the new touch surface of this bad boy, you can tap once to play and pause, tap twice to skip a track, tap 3 times to rewind. You've got your volume buttons always there, so you know if you're going up or down, so that's a little different from the OG, but pretty similar to the HomePod minis and pretty similar to the OGs minus the volume buttons. So very easy to use, very similar to what you use. You hold down the touch surface for Siri, and then you'll get the full display on that little touch surface. You get a nice little, more of an indicator this time around, but pretty straightforward and exactly like the minis. Okay, now that we covered the basics, let's talk about what I actually think about this bad boy. All right, and again, I'm gonna have a little different spin on this because I've got 8 of them plus 2 HomePod minis. I got 1 stereo pair in the mix, the other 6 are just solos, and then the 2 minis. So let's talk about the sound. We've got 2 less tweeters. Does it sound any different to me? Now, unfortunately, I do not have the OGs to compare it to because I'm a guy that cannot handle old technology. So there's not one of those in my house, so I apologize that I can't do that. But from what I remember, these are pretty damn close. And now how does Apple do that? They do that through computational audio. So this has got a new sensor that senses the room, and I'm telling you right now, it does a great job. So do I miss Sonos anymore? 2022, the battles of HomePod minis versus Sonos. I don't. I think Sonos is dead to me. Apple finally answered my prayers. They gave me the HomePod that I was looking for, not only for music, but for home theater. So we got Dolby Atmos. We got spatial audio. Teresa's going to laugh at that because she knows that I'll probably, as soon as Sonos comes out with a new product, I'll want to go back. But I don't know. What do you think, Teresa?
Based on what I'm hearing, I have high hopes. But you know, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yes, but I think this is a step in the right direction. So I hope products keep coming. I hope we get a smart display. I think that Apple, and with Matter support and Thread support, I think we're in the right direction. I think they're going to answer or tick all my boxes. So, all right. So with that computational audio, again, I can't tell you exactly, and I'm not an audiophile, but these sound amazing. And so once you do get them set up, they sound fantastic, especially the stereo pairs. Paired with my LG OLED, man, these sound great. Watch Top Gun Maverick, movies like that. The audio does seem to go around you. I don't know how it does with 2. Now, I had a complete Sonos setup with the Sonos Arc, the sub. I had 2 Play 5s at one point in that surround sound. Now, of course, it can't do everything all of that does. It's 2 speakers versus, a sub and a sound bar and 2 back speakers. But man, for just being 2 speakers, that spatial audio and that Dolby Atmos is freaking awesome. So good job with the computational audio, Apple. I mean, those engineers, that's what you get with a premium product. It's part of the reason you're paying $299. Apple engineers know what they're doing. Now, even the solos, completely different than the HomePod mini. So for example, on my television, when I was watching a movie and I had to crank the HomePod mini up to 100% volume, whereas these, I find that you're getting about the same sound at 60% volume. So you crank these up to 100 and man, it sounds pretty fantastic. And the nice thing about the HomePods is it handles 100% volume without any distortion. And that's pretty cool, but a big difference from the minis. And we're gonna kind of talk about what separates this from the minis at the end, but that's one of the things. When you're talking about music, and I'm a huge music lover, and you're talking about surround sound, and I'm a huge movie guy, these sound so much better than the minis, it's ridiculous. So right there, maybe worth the price, $299 price? Maybe. All right, so the sound sounds fantastic, and I just don't miss those 2 tweeters. And as far as the microphones, I haven't noticed any difference. I shoot the series over there in the other side of this room. I use it from this side of the room, no problem. In my living room, from the kitchen to the living room, or wherever I'm standing, Siri hears me just fine. Same thing in all my rooms. So I I don't miss those microphones either. One little note I will make as far as what you can do with these bad boys, you know, when I've got 8 and 10 total in here, you know, you can listen to music in the single room, you can play it everywhere, you can create zones. And when you do that with music, it sounds fantastic. And I will tell you, since when it was 16.3, I did have some issues with not all my HomePods playing. So it seems like it was a month ago or whatever, but it was just a week ago that 16.3 was there. So I had some issues, but once we got it to 16.3.1, all that was solved. And one thing I want to note about that as far as movies go, a lot of people want to turn this into a surround sound system and have the 2 stereo pairs and then have back speakers. Just know that if you select your TV on multiple HomePods, the audio is a little degraded. So you'll find a big difference when you're watching TV just on your stereo pairs than if you've got the TV show playing in every room. You're going to notice it's a lot quieter. So if you just stick to those stereo pairs when you're watching a movie, because otherwise it won't sound as good as it should. So that's one note I will make about the sound. Let's just talk quickly about Apple Home or Apple HomeKit, because this is obviously a big part of the smart home. Your Apple Hub, you know, through your Thread border router. I find that Siri requests are very responsive, even with 10. You know, I've done the videos in the past on how many HomePods are too many. Now, at 16.3, I was having some issues with some of them not responding, but at 16.3.1 was a big update for these HomePods. I'm telling you that right now. So if you haven't updated your Apple TVs and your HomePods to 16.3.1, do it now, because it helps a lot. But great responsiveness on all 10 of them. Now the 16.3.1 is going, and been enjoying it, having great chats with Siri left and right, and having a beautiful time controlling my Apple Smart Home. Okay, so what are my final thoughts on this bad boy? I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty happy. I think Sonos is dead to me, I think. And keep them coming, Apple, like I said. But as far as the smart home goes, it's great. Who is this for? You know, a lot of people are going to ask that question because at $299, it's a lot. Apple, come on. It's a premium product. Apple lovers are diehards. For me personally, even those 2 HomePod minis in here now are driving me nuts. I want them all to be full size. And I don't need them to be, because minis are great in the bathroom. That's pretty much where they're left. They're actually left in Teresa's office and Teresa's bathroom because she doesn't care about us as much. So mentally, that's how I'm dealing with it, because it's Teresa's. But I still want to replace them whether Sheila wants me to or not. But it's a premium product. And if you're in the Apple ecosystem and you've got the smart home and you want your surround sound with your spatial audio and your Dolby Atmos, it's so much better than the Mini. Because a lot of people are going to ask, why don't I buy the Mini? The reason for that is if you've got them paired to a TV, this blows the Minis away. Also, just rooms that you really want to enjoy that music, this blows the Minis away. So it's all about music, and it's all about surround sound as far as the difference between the Mini and the HomePod. You just want to control your smart home and have some background music going, I guess go for the Mini. But you know, Apple lovers wanting the premium product, the engineers, the computational audio, this is the HomePod for you. $299, I think it's well worth it. Obviously, I spent a pretty penny on 8 of them, and I want 2 more. So I think it's worth it myself. And I'm an Apple guy and everything, and I've been waiting for these for a long time. But I'm telling you, as you know, you compare it to the price of a Sonos speaker, it's really not that bad. So anyway, so I think it's worth it. But that's who it's for. It's for the person that wants that premium Apple product, music lover, wants that computational audio, wants to be blown away by the audio, wants that Dolby Atmos, wants the spatial audio with their movies and their television. So that's who it's for. So that's it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Were you as excited as I was? I'm glad I waited 10 days to do this, because there was quite a lot that happened in that 10 days. From getting this to 16.0 to 16.3, then 16.3.1, that was a huge update. And if I would have done this right away, especially with all 8 of them, I would have had a completely different review, because I was frustrated. That whole configuring for hours and hours thing, having to call Apple support, it was very frustrating. So this would have been a whole different review if I would have done this last weekend. So I'm glad I waited. And thank you, Apple, for fixing it. It sucks that these came with 16.0. I wish they came with even 16.3. It would have made this a lot easier for everybody. But whatever. It is what it is. But overall, great product, premium product. So glad it's returned. And hopefully there's more coming in the future from Apple in the smart home and music and surround sound. Maybe we'll get a surround sound system from Apple. Who knows? But I think this is a step in the right direction. And with Thread and Matter, I think they're concentrating on Apple Home. And man, Apple Music paired with this bad boy, Killer tunes. I'm all about music, and these sound amazing. Again, I can't compare it to the original OG, but man, I think they're close. I had them briefly last year, so it was pretty recent that I had them. But again, I can't deal with old technology, but I think these are pretty damn close. And I'm telling you, in a place like this, any room like this, they feel it, man, and they feel it with some killer bass. The treble's good. I just think they sound great. And again, that spatial audio is amazing. The engineers at Apple, good job. All right. But again, let me know in the comments, were you as excited? Did you have problems with the setup? Let me know. But that's it. Nice to be back. And as far as that goes, you know, my health journey, it's been a weird thing. I think we're going to go every 2 weeks, diagnosed with cancer, going through chemo. Those chemo weeks are a little rough to do a video, but you can see I feel pretty good on the off weeks, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to go every 2 weeks. But I'm back, baby, I'm back. We're gonna do some content. Feel like I got my spirit back. Got some great news on the cancer journey. We're kicking its ass. So anyway, so give me about 2 weeks and we'll be back. Until then, peace and love.